Welcome to Strictly Business, Variety's weekly podcast featuring conversations with industry leaders about the business of media and entertainment. I'm Tyler Aquilina with Luminate Intelligence, formerly known as Variety Intelligence Platform. TV buyers will soon have yet another option when weighing what smart TV to purchase. Digital advertising giant The Trade Desk has been developing a new operating system known as Ventura, set to launch in the near future. It's an intriguing proposition, but ever since Ventura was officially announced back in November, a lot of questions have arisen about the new OS. Why is The Trade Desk entering an already crowded and hyper-competitive business? What are the implications of an advertising company entering the smart TV space? And how might this disrupt the already turbulent connected TV ad market? Here to answer all those questions and more is The Trade Desk's SVP of Ventura, Matthew Henick. He came to The Trade Desk from a media and tech background and is now heading up its efforts to reshape the CTV business. Let's just get right into it because there's a lot to discuss with Ventura. It's an interesting time to be getting into the smart TV business for sure. It's a very kind of complicated time for the space. It's undergoing a lot of growing pains, maturation, that kind of thing. Why is now the right moment for The Trade Desk to be getting into this space?
We think it's an incredibly important moment right now because we're huge fans and believers in the power of the open internet and the power of the media industry. The open internet because there is a huge portion of the internet that's not controlled within the walled gardens of Google and Amazon and Facebook. And luckily, most of the best media that humans have ever made in all of recorded music, movies, television, news, sports, podcasts sits outside of those walled gardens in the open internet. And those companies that have been making this media have been going through massive transformation the past 10 years as they've moved to be direct to consumer. This usually means that they're releasing their own streaming apps of one kind or another. And one of the reasons why they had to do this was because many of the big tech companies were disrupting their core business. They were getting in between them and their customers. And the scary thing right now is that they've made these massive transformational investments to become direct to consumer, but all these apps still sit on operating systems owned by these big tech companies. And so a lot of the same problems that they're trying to avoid haven't fully gone away yet. So we think we have a pretty unique way to enter this space objectively, to bring objectivity as a core principle and to improve how the money flows between all of these participants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us more about that. Like, what will distinguish Ventura from the other OSs on the market, both in terms of objectivity and what it offers to users?
Sure. We think, objectivity has been an important part of the Trade Desk since our founding. So we intend to bring that to the CTV space, and we think that has benefits for every participant along the way. We're seeing massive challenges for the manufacturing and retailing of television that we think can be solved with objectivity. We're seeing large-scale issues for publishers because they're competing with content apps owned by the operating systems themselves. And then for advertisers, they're not able to get accurate signal and most effectively enter this space when they really want to. And this all comes down to a user experience that also is incredibly confusing and frankly untrustworthy for users, where they can't necessarily trust the recommendations and the pixels on their screen that are coming their way because it is meant to serve somebody else's use case and not necessarily theirs.
Mm. Okay. And so what will Ventura bring to the table that kind of, helps solve some of those problems?
Sure. So let's start with OEMs and retailers. The manufacturing of televisions is incredibly margin challenged right now. And this was before tariffs came into play. When you're making a television and you're selling a television, you're making a couple dollars or in some cases negative margin once every 5 to 6 years when you sell that television. And when you sell that television with perhaps Amazon's OS on it, then you're handing over that customer relationship to the world's largest retailer who may not necessarily drive them back into your store to buy the next television. So by having an independent and objective OS there, you're able to build a recurring revenue stream that lasts beyond that point of sale for retailers. For publishers, that means you're not going to be competing directly with the OS. And being the OS brings a lot of power. We've seen this in the mobile phone space. We've seen this in the desktop space where you control everything that's happening on that screen. So if you're a publisher and you're competing with the owner of the operating system, you're pretty much going to lose every jump ball possible. So if you're a publisher, you want to be on an objective platform so you get you have a level playing field to get your media seen just as easily as anybody else's. And then for users, you're able, again, to trust the recommendations. You're able to know that this thing has my personalization at heart, and it's sending me to things that I want to see, not necessarily that my corporate overlord wants to see.
Right. And then, you're talking a lot about the benefits for publishers. What about advertisers? How will Ventura kind of address the problems in the supply chain that we hear so much about and that the trade desk talks a lot about?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, advertising is our core business and the reason why we think we even have the right to compete against some of the most successful companies in the history of capitalism, and Amazon and Google in particular. Advertisers are increasingly telling us and showing us that they want to invest more in CTV. It is an amazing advertising product. Again, the quality of the media is as high as it can be. It's incredibly immersive because you're usually watching it on a large screen. And most of the time, the users are logged in one way or another. So it's authenticated so you can track it well. So advertisers want to spend more, but they're increasingly hitting these walls of fragmentation of how inventory is being divided up. So when you're an OS, traditionally, you're exerting this leverage to tell every publisher, hey, if you want to be on our OS, you have to pay us a tax on every new subscription that's being originated on our platform. And then number two, you need to give us a certain percentage of your advertising inventory for us to sell ourselves, which means that the OSs, again, are taking advertising inventory and selling it in market next to the owners of that inventory. So you are competing again in the advertising space with the OS. What we're going to be able to do, number one, is clarify that supply chain. So we're going to allow the inventory to stay with the publisher, and the publisher and the OEM can figure out how to divide that up. And then we'll bring our core products to help it be transacted on as transparently as possible. This means that every dollar that an advertiser wants to spend will get directly to the publisher and not be taxed by multiple parties in between that perhaps aren't contributing as much value as they should be.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think the effects and possibly the benefits of that will be for, kind of the ad market as a whole?
Transparency is probably number one. Because again, when an advertiser is buying something, they want to have as much confidence that they know what it is, where it'll run, and that they're advertising to a particular person, and they'll pay up for that. So the benefits will be from a publisher's standpoint. They really are looking at what percentage of their inventory is actually getting sold and at what price. I think there's a lot of room to improve your sell-through rate. All of these publishers, we want to help sell 100% of their ad inventory, and we want to sell it at competitive prices. If we do both of those things, advertisers will be getting more for their money, and publishers will be capturing more of those ad dollars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you also mentioned this strategy of letting manufacturers control more of the ad inventory. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that is going to work?
Sure. So manufacturers of televisions, OEMs as we call them, and retailers are looking for ways to turn the selling of television into a recurring revenue stream. And so that traditionally has brought them to advertising and content broadly. And so when you have that challenge in front of you, you really have two choices. You can choose to build all of this in-house. So you have to build your own operating system, your own content team, your own ads team. We're seeing folks like Samsung and LG do this with some success. Or you can choose to outsource all of that to a big tech company, a Google or an Amazon, in exchange for a check. And we think there's a better way, which is the OEMs don't necessarily want to be selling the ad inventory themselves. They want the revenue that comes through it. I would argue that the best people to be selling that inventory are the publishers themselves. And so what Ventura allows us to do is to connect those OEMs and the publishers directly so that Disney can still sell all of their inventory and not feel like they have to obfuscate it and charge a fair price for it and share a certain percentage of that back to the OEMs. So the OEMs can build an advertising revenue stream without necessarily having to do all the investment required to build the tech stack themselves, to build the advertising sales team and everything that comes along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what I'm hearing is that like the OEMs are going to get to kind of reap more of the benefits from, ad revenues and things like that, which is kind of more than they would typically get to participate in with other OSs?
Absolutely. When you're an OEM that hasn't built their own OS, so you're going to Google, you're going to Amazon, you're not participating at all in most cases. If you're lucky, you maybe are getting a per device bounty, where Google or Amazon is giving you a small check per every device, but that's a flat fee. So you get paid once, and Google and Amazon are doing that because they know that they'll make way more than that over the lifetime of that television. So we're making sure that all of that revenue is able to go back to the OEM and not captured by a third party.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I kind of do have to ask, like, what is the benefit for you guys of kind of giving up this revenue stream in this way? Why kind of approach it in this with this strategy?
So we have the benefit of having a core business as an ad tech firm that perfectly aligns with growing this pie. And so, we're not doing this as a loss leader, as a philanthropic exercise. We're doing it because we believe that more transparency in the CTV ecosystem, a fair auction where everybody knows what they're bidding on it, who they're bidding against, will benefit our core business. And if it benefits our core business, that allows us to make advertisers more effective in their campaigns and, frankly, bring more dollars back to the media companies that are investing in this amazing content.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us anything about, how potential manufacturing partners have been responding to the strategy so far?
They're incredibly excited because they've been looking for this solution, right? Again, pre-tariffs, post-tariffs, as they really try and figure out what this business looks like, they need something sustainable and recurring to build a business model against. And so they're definitely leaning in on the commercial side. The other thing that they're really excited about is the flexibility and customization that our platform brings. So again, if you are a retailer or if you're an OEM, you would prefer to still extend your brand and maintain that customer connection with people in their living rooms. You're going through all the trouble to make these amazing pieces of electronics, and you're going through the trouble of placing them in people's homes. And so we think they deserve to be able to customize what the OS looks like as well to extend their brands. It's not as important for us that the Ventura logo is huge everywhere. We'd rather have the OEMs and the retail logos in there because they're bringing the value to installing those televisions. So they're excited about the commercial side, but they're also excited about the brand flexibility side as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about that customization that you mentioned, because I was just reading about that. That's the OS is kind of designed to be sort of modular. How is that going to work exactly?
Yeah, so it starts with our ad supply chain stack, meaning we want the auctions that are happening for all the ads that run on Ventura to be as transparent and as fair as possible. That allows us to compete as the core business and trade desk, but that allows everybody else in the ad tech community to compete as well. And anytime we brought more transparency to any part of the ad tech space, all boats have risen who are adding value there. So that's the core module that we bring. On top of that, then obviously we have the core services around our catalog, our search engine and recommendation engine that make it function as an OS and function as something that's really valuable to users. And then you have the user interface on top, which has to have certain common elements around the continue watching feature that we have, where we're pulling in all of your progress across all of your apps into one place, our app store that allows all the apps that you would want to watch content on to be there. But there's certain elements of that user interface that, have font choices and colors and logo placements. And that's where we're able to offer a lot more flexibility to OEMs versus what they're offered from other partners, where it's really take it or leave it. So we're really excited of being able to offer them that because they haven't been able to take advantage of that for a long time.
Mm-hmm. So really the interface could look different, from manufacturer to manufacturer, depending on, what the features that they want to prioritize.
Completely. Yeah. It's not just the look and feel. There are certain features. If you're a retailer who has a loyalty program or a tech support offering, we'll integrate that into the OS as well. So that, again, if you're a user who subscribes to that program or bought that warranty, everything should be in one place. It shouldn't feel as fragmented as it is now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I do want to talk a little bit more about, the user experience. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's something that often kind of gets left out of the conversation when it comes to talking about CTV, but it feels so vital to me. I mean, as a user of these, technologies myself, I often find the experience frustrating. How are you guys kind of approaching that side of things?
No, I appreciate you pointing that out because, all the data that we have shows that users are not very particular about what OS they choose. In most cases, it's downstream from screen size and price of their television, and the OS just sort of comes along for the ride. And I think to your point, that shows that we're not doing enough to build amazing user interfaces for folks. So one of our core principles first is that we're going to be content first, meaning we're partnering with all the publishers, and because we're an objective partner, they're willing to give us access to their catalogs that they don't necessarily give to other OSs, where we can pull out individual shows, individual movies, and present those to you on the core home screen versus having you have to click into every app to try and find something. So that shows up in something like I mentioned before is our continue watching feature, where we're able to pull from every app that you have, see it in one place. And we've seen that be at least 60% of the time that you turn on your television, you're going right there because you're either picking up the next episode or you're halfway through a movie or anything like that. Beyond that, it also means that we can be objective in what we recommend to you at any given time. So obviously a big problem that everyone's been trying to solve is live sports, right? There is incredible urgency to turn on your television and find the game that you want. It's increasingly becoming harder to find it as sports rights have been divvied up in 18,000 different places. But by building a content first user interface, we'll be able to give that to you directly in the largest possible square right when you turn on your television. And then in those minority of situations where you don't know what you want to watch, we'll be able to give you the best recommendations possible by both learning about you ourselves, but also by pulling out the recommendations from each one of your apps. Obviously, partners like Netflix have invested a tremendous amount in trying to give you the best recommendations possible. They've built very advanced algorithms, so is Disney, HBO Max, all of them down the line. There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to benefit those on the home screen as well. So it's really a mix of being able to do our own recommendations, but also marry them with all the amazing work that the apps do individually.
That's interesting. You mentioned that, OS often kind of doesn't make a difference for consumers. It sounds like something it sounds like that's something that you guys want to change. How do you think we can kind of get to a place where consumers are thinking more about that?
Yeah, I mean, the first step is to expose it to them, right? So the first step still is solving the commercial and customization wants and desires of these OEMs and retailers so that we get a shot at showing them what a differentiated user experience can look like. But a real sign of success down the line, and this will take multiple years, is that users start to have a preference. And then if there's televisions who have equal specs of size and cost, and one of them is powered by Ventura, that they're choosing that over the other option. So we'll look at that down the line. We won't get there right away because, again, we have to build this audience. We have to show them both what we think an OS can be today and what it should be in the future.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, are there any particular features that that consumers are looking for in smart TVs that they're maybe not getting right now?
We've definitely seen a lot of interest, and in our research surveys, direct interest in our continue watching feature, something that truly can bring in every single app. Certainly another one is the live sports feature, where, again, we're able to go across all the apps that you have subscriptions or access to and pull out the exact match that you want at that particular time. Search is another one, for sure, where if you're searching for something that may be a show that may sit the new episodes in one place, the old episodes in another, that we can help you sort that through. And then something like a unified watch list is really interesting to folks too, where, you're obviously favoriting things or putting things on a list in each individual app, but you're not necessarily able to pull them all together. And that's something we're also able to do.
I don't want to name any names, but I am often kind of appalled by how bad the search function often still is on some of these interfaces.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard technically. And again, it takes an integration and a close partnership with the publishers because they need to give you access to what their catalogs are and a lot of the metadata that comes along with it and the entitlements of you subscribe to this tier, not that tier, to really build a corpus that you can build a great search experience on. And I empathize with the publishers because, again, they need to existentially be onto these platforms, but they also don't want to help their direct competitors by giving them access to the catalog or access to engagement information about which shows are working, because that same OS has another division that is bidding against them for that next big show or that next big sports right. So that puts us in a position, again, where we can build trust for publishers who are able to give us access to that information that they probably wouldn't for other partners to build a better user experience.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't want to leave the retail side of things out of this conversation. You have mentioned tariffs a couple of times. I'm curious what the economic climate right now, how that's been impacting some of your conversations with manufacturers and retailers.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I sympathize with them because there's so much uncertainty, and each component that goes into a television, you're looking at down to the penny. The system on a chip, semiconductor that you're putting in there, the memory, the motherboard, getting it all packaged up, getting it shipped over is an incredibly complicated challenge that both manufacturers and, to your point, retailers have to deal with. And so especially post Walmart and Vizio, every retailer, whether they're national or regional, is looking at their television strategy again.
Yeah, just to clarify, Walmart acquired smart TV manufacturer Vizio late last year.
Correct. Walmart's a longtime partner of ours, and it's been really interesting to work with them to help stand that up. And every other retailer is also thinking about their strategy there. What's amazing about what we offer that we didn't necessarily have in market even when that acquisition went down was we can give retailers pretty much 100% of the value that Walmart's getting from Vizio without having to acquire their own OS because of the customization we bring, because of the tie-ins to whatever ad business they already have. And put them in a place where, again, they could overnight flip a switch and basically have their own in-house OS and all the benefits that it brings.
Interesting. So, I'm curious, your thoughts on Ventura's prospects for adoption. I know that some observers have said that you guys kind of face an uphill battle just because of how crowded the market is, things like that. What's kind of your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, they're right. It is a crowded market, and they're right that these upgrade cycles take a while, right? Number one, people usually buy a new television once every 5 to 7 years at this point, and a lot of the OEMs and retailers have relationships with the existing OSs that come up once a year, every 3 years, every 5 years, or whatnot. So fitting into all of those is a challenge, but one that we're handling really well. I think what's really interesting that people are not necessarily appreciating is how uncertain the OS space feels for the first time in a while. We're seeing some of the larger players like Google, just to call one out, who is actively reducing the size of the team working on Google TV and Android TV. I think most of the major OSs are very publicly reevaluating their investment in it. And that's often because if you're part of a big tech company and you're a project like this, you're the 127th most important product at that company at any given time. And if somebody who is more important sits down in your product meeting, you're doing what they're doing to build your fast service or to build your ad product or your AI product or whatever it is. And so I think there's going to be a lot more space than people appreciate in the future that I think we're well positioned to capture. But even in the meantime, we're fitting into the normal cycles and offering something that's commercially more advantageous and from a brand perspective more advantageous. So we're in a really nice spot.
Yeah, interesting. I think it'll be fascinating to follow. I hope to continue following it and covering it as I've been doing. And best of luck to you guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to leave us a review at Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music. We love to hear from listeners. Please go to Variety.com and sign up for the free weekly Strictly Business newsletter. And don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Strictly Business.